Chosen one. Pause, right now. Heaven itself has stopped the noise around you so you can hear what is being spoken in this sacred moment. This is not coincidence. This is divine interruption. You were not supposed to scroll past this message. You were supposed to feel it. The air shifts when God speaks. And right now, He is speaking to you. Stop before it's too late. You've been running so fast, chasing things that glitter but don't glow, reaching for promises that were never yours to hold. God says, be still. For too long, you have ignored the whispers in your spirit, the gentle nudges that said, not that way. Don't take that step. Don't trust that voice. But heaven has now raised its tone. What once was a whisper has become a thunder. There is something sacred about this interruption. It is a mercy disguised as a warning. The storm you sense brewing is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to awaken you. You have been drifting between surrender and self-will, between obedience and rebellion. Heaven has pressed pause on your life, because if you take one more step in the wrong direction, you may lose more than time. You may lose alignment with destiny itself. Chosen one. You have carried the weight of confusion for too long. You've prayed. You've wept. You've questioned why doors close, why people vanish, why peace feels distant. But what if the rejection was protection? What if every delay was God's divine hand holding you back from disaster? Listen carefully. You are not being punished. You are being preserved. The Spirit of God says, stop before you say yes to something I never approved. Stop before you step into a place that carries the scent of compromise. The enemy does not always come with horns and hatred. Sometimes he comes as comfort, opportunity, or acceptance. That is why God is interrupting your path right now. Heaven refuses to let you go quietly into destruction. As the silence of heaven thickens, it is not absence, it is invitation. God is waiting for your surrender. He is waiting for you to finally stop striving. Stop explaining. Stop performing for approval. You were never meant to earn love. You were meant to embody it. You were not called to blend in. You were called to stand apart. In this moment, lift your eyes. Feel the weight of divine attention on your soul. You are seen. You are known. You are not forgotten. The ache in your spirit is evidence that God still calls your name. He interrupts because He loves. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 23, verse 4. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and staff comfort. Beloved, that valley you've been walking through, it's not punishment, it's passage. The shadows that frighten you are only proof that light is near. You have been kept through nights that should have broken you. And God says, this interruption is the beginning of restoration. No, there are angels standing on both sides of your journey, holding back storms that you never even saw forming. You survived what destroyed others because your name is marked for purpose. You are not standing by accident. You are standing because grace built a wall around your destiny when darkness tried to swallow you whole. Heaven whispers that this is your turning point. Every tear you've cried has watered the soil of your new beginning. The very pain that once silenced your voice will now become your testimony. The same God who stopped you today will send you forth tomorrow stronger, wiser, and anchored in divine obedience. You are being called to stop, not out of fear, but out of faith. Stop running from the voice that has always been your rescue. Stop pretending you don't hear the tug in your heart. Heaven is offering you one more pause before the page turns, before mercy finishes its final lap around your story. So right now, breathe. Put your hand over your heart. Whisper, "I hear you, Lord." And if this message has pierced your spirit, if you know heaven is talking to you, then take a prophetic step of obedience. Comment 777 below as your declaration that you hear and receive this divine interruption. Like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next whisper heaven sends your way. God says, "I stopped you because I still have plans for you." There is a moment before every storm when the air feels heavy, when silence grows thick and the world seems to hold its breath. That's where you are right now. Chosen one in the sacred pause before the shaking. You feel it deep in your chest. That uneasy stirring that tells you something is shifting. It isn't fear. It's heaven's whisper. It's the voice of God calling softly, urgently. Listen before the thunder. For days now, your spirit has been restless. You've noticed how familiar things suddenly feel foreign, how conversations no longer satisfy, how certain people around you drain your light instead of feeding your fire. It's not coincidence. Heaven has begun separating you from the noise. God is repositioning you in silence so you can finally hear what He's been saying all along. The whisper comes quietly, but it carries the weight of eternity. It says, "Stop leaning on your understanding. Stop trying to fix what only I can heal." Every time you try to control what's crumbling, you delay what's divine. Every time you cling to what He's removing, you hold on to what cannot go with you. This is why God speaks before the storm, so you'll know that when the shaking starts, it's not destruction, it's direction. You have been asking for confirmation, waiting for a sign, yet heaven has been giving them, one after another, through the delays, through the closed doors, through the restlessness that won't go away. Those are not coincidences. Those are divine messages coded in discomfort. The whisper before the storm is never loud. It's always found in the still, small voice that says, "Be ready. I'm about to move." The world has taught you to value motion, to equate activity with progress. But heaven teaches a different rhythm. Sometimes the holiest thing you can do is stop, to wait, to listen, to let the Spirit of God move without interference. Because when He moves, everything hidden becomes clear. And right now, God is clearing your atmosphere, removing distractions, exposing lies, silencing the enemy's whispers that sound too much like truth. This is your moment of preparation. Don't mistake quiet for absence. Don't confuse stillness for stagnation. God does His deepest work in the unseen places. And though nothing appears to be happening, something holy is forming within you. The whisper is shaping your response before the test comes. The storm will not destroy you, but how you listen now will determine how you stand. Then, you have been chosen for sensitivity. Your spirit feels what others ignore. That's not a weakness. It's your divine wiring. You hear the warnings first. Not because you're paranoid, but because heaven trusts you. You sense the tremors before others notice the quake. That sensitivity is a spiritual gift, designed to protect and guide you, not torment you. You are not crazy for feeling too deeply. You are chosen to discern what's coming before it arrives. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19. I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live. That's the essence of the whisper. Chosen one. It's an invitation to choose, to stop drifting between both sides, to stop saying you trust God while holding on to fear. The whisper calls you to make a decision before the storm, demands one. God never shouts at those he loves. He whispers. He speaks to those who are still enough to hear. And if he's been speaking to you lately in subtle, strange ways, through silence, through conviction, through delay, then understand this. Heaven is positioning you for obedience before pressure arrives. You don't need to panic. You don't need to rush. You only need to listen. Let his voice cut through your confusion. Let his peace settle the war within you. The whisper will always come before the storm, not to scare you, but to save you from the things you'd otherwise walk into blind. The Spirit of God is saying, you are standing at the border between what was and what will be. One small decision now can change the entire course of your life. One act of surrender can stop 1,000 storms from forming. Listen, the whisper is not just a warning, it's an act of mercy. So, stay still. Chosen one, don't drown out the sound of heaven with the noise of fear. The storm may be coming, but you will not be swept away. The same God who warns you in whispers will cover you when the winds rise. You have been fighting wars no one can see. The battle is not on your skin, it's in your soul. Every thought, every doubt, every sudden heaviness that falls on you in the quiet hours is not random. It's warfare. Heaven sees how long you've been carrying invisible weights, smiling while bleeding, showing strength while feeling empty. But the Lord says, this war will not end in your defeat. There are forces that rise when a chosen one begins to awaken. The moment you decide to walk in light, darkness takes notice. You've wondered why the attacks have felt so personal, why the same temptations circle back, why familiar voices pull you toward old patterns, why peace slips away right when you're about to step forward. It's because hell knows your potential, even when you doubt it yourself. But hear this, you are not losing. You are becoming aware. The struggle you're facing isn't proof of weakness, it's proof that your spirit is gaining clarity. Every sleepless night, every tear shed in silence has trained you for discernment. You no longer react to everything that moves. You've begun to recognize what's worth your attention and what's meant to drain your fire. That's growth. And that's victory. God is exposing the hidden battles in your soul, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. He's revealing every false attachment, every buried wound, every place the enemy tried to build a throne. Because before he promotes, he purges. Before he releases you into the next season, he cleans the residue of the last one. This cleansing feels like chaos, but it's divine surgery. You are being healed by being honest. You've prayed for peace, but peace doesn't come through pretending, it comes through exposure. God cannot heal what you hide, and so he's shining his light on everything that must leave your heart. Bitterness, fear, pride, self-sabotage. It hurts, but it's holy. Every layer that falls away is one less chain holding you down. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. That's the reminder. Chosen one. You are not alone in this fight. Heaven has already deployed angels on your behalf. Every unseen struggle is being countered by unseen strength. The Lord is not asking you to win by effort. He's asking you to trust by surrender. But be warned, the enemy is subtle. He doesn't always appear in the obvious places. Sometimes he hides in the people who tell you to settle. Sometimes he sounds like your own inner critic. His goal isn't always to destroy. Sometimes it's simply to distract, because if he can't defeat you, he'll drain you until you stop believing you're chosen. That's why this battle feels endless. It's not just about your mind, it's about your identity. You are not just under attack, you are being defined by fire. What's left after this refining will be unstoppable. So don't despise the pressure, it's shaping your spiritual authority. Even now, as you read these words, something inside you is awakening. Your spirit recognizes truth because it came from the same breath that gave you life. You were never created to be a casualty of darkness. You were designed to be a weapon of light. Every hardship has been training you to see through deception, to stand firm when others fall, to carry light where others compromise. This war within is producing wisdom. Soon, you will no longer react from emotion, but respond from revelation. The storm within you will quiet, because the one inside you has never been shaken. You're being refined, not rejected, broken, not beyond repair, tested, but trusted. Heaven only refines those it plans to use. Every unseen battle is a classroom for the anointed. You are learning strength, authority, and patience that cannot be learned in comfort. So lift your head, chosen one. Wipe your tears. The same God who allowed the fight will finish it for you. Your breakthrough isn't coming after the battle, it's being birthed through it. Now, declare this in faith. Comment, "I am ready," below. Do it as a prophetic act, not for others, but for yourself. Because when you write those words, you break agreement with fear. You tell heaven, "I'm done running from the fight. I will face it with faith." That simple declaration shifts your atmosphere. It invites divine power into the very space where you once felt defeated. God whispers again, "You are not fighting to prove your worth. You are fighting because you already have it." There comes a sacred moment. Chosen one. When you find yourself standing on the edge of almost, you can feel destiny just beyond reach. Yet something unseen holds you still. It's that tension between desire and obedience, between what you want and what God wills. You can sense how close you are, so close that one wrong step could shift everything. Heaven calls this moment the moment of almost. You've been here before. The opportunity looked perfect. The path looked safe. The timing felt right. Yet something deep inside whispered, "Wait." That whisper was not hesitation. It was protection. For when you are chosen, God will never let you step into something that looks good but ends in loss. The almosts of your life have been shields in disguise. Every door that almost opened, every person who almost stayed, every promise that almost worked out, those were divine interventions dressed as disappointments. It's hard, isn't it, to stand in between, to feel momentum, but here, not yet, to want to move, but know that movement without alignment is danger. But God knows what you do not. He sees the traps hidden beneath the glitter. the storms forming behind the smiles. That's why he holds you back when your impatience wants to run. This is mercy. Even when it feels like delay. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. End of. That verse is not a soft comfort, it is a divine strategy. God knows the exact moment your next step should begin. If he seems silent now, it's because he is aligning every piece for your good. You are not behind. You are being timed to perfection. What feels like pause is preparation. The enemy, however, loves to move in moments of almost. He whispers, "You've waited long enough. Take it now." He did the same to Eve in the garden, offering knowledge before timing. He did the same to Jesus in the wilderness, offering glory without the cross. And he does the same to you, offering shortcuts that cost your crown. But hear this, shortcuts always lead to spiritual detours. What begins as convenience often ends as captivity. God's silence in your season of almost is not punishment, it's purification. He's removing your dependence on the outcome so that when you finally receive what's yours, you'll worship the giver, not the gift. Waiting does not weaken your destiny, it strengthens your discernment. You are learning the difference between something good and something God ordained. In the waiting, heaven tests your heart. Will you stay faithful when the promise feels delayed? Will you trust when understanding fails? This is the test that separates the called from the chosen. The called follow feelings, the chosen follow faith. And right now, you are being invited to choose faith again. Your almost moment is sacred because it reveals where your trust truly lies. When you no longer demand that God move on your schedule, you prove that he reigns in your heart. When you surrender timing, you prove that obedience is your language of love. There is a thin line between almost and arrival, and God is guiding you carefully across it. Don't rush the process. Don't let loneliness drive you into premature connections or fear push you into false doors. The enemy loves impatience because it births compromise. But you, chosen one, are not called to settle. You are called to stand still until heaven says, move. Remember, the longer the preparation, the greater the purpose. Diamonds take pressure. Arrows must be pulled back before release. And before a crown rests on a head, that head must learn to bow. You are not being denied, you are being designed. So breathe. Let peace anchor your waiting. You are not forgotten. You are being refined for something that cannot be rushed. Every no is clearing space for the yes that will never break you. Every delay is divine choreography, positioning you exactly where heaven needs you to be. You are standing at the edge of fulfillment. One act of obedience will shift everything. One moment of surrender will unlock what striving never could. This is the sacred weight of almost, to be close enough to see it, but wise enough to wait for it. When the time comes, the door will open with peace, not pressure. You won't have to beg. It will fit effortlessly. What's meant for you will not confuse you, compete with your peace, or contradict your calling. Until then, stay still. The author of your story is not finished writing the next line, but when he speaks, the waiting will make sense. The moment of almost is not the end, it's the threshold of everything God promised. Stand firm. The wind may blow, the silence may ache, but your almost is proof that heaven is near. Sometimes, God doesn't shout from the heavens, He whispers through memories. You've heard His voice before, maybe not as thunder, but as conviction that caught your breath in the middle of doing something you knew wasn't right. That gentle ache in your chest, that sudden thought to turn around, that pause before sending a message or making a choice, that was mercy speaking. But too often, mercy has to echo more than once before you truly listen. The echo of disobedience, this is what heaven calls it. It's the repeating sound of divine warnings we ignored the first time. Every missed instruction becomes a faint echo that grows softer with each repetition. Not because God grows tired, but because we grow distant. The further you drift from His voice, the quieter it becomes. And yet, even now, even after everything, the echo is returning to you once more, calling you back before silence falls completely. Think of a lighthouse on the shore. It doesn't chase the ships, it simply shines. Its light says, "You're drifting too far," but the ship must turn on its own. God's voice works the same way. He doesn't control you, He calls you. His light doesn't force you to come home. It reminds you that home still exists. There have been moments when you felt that light flicker. You brushed off conviction as coincidence, confusion, or fear. You told yourself, maybe it's not that serious. But deep down, you knew. You knew the Spirit was pulling you away from something dressed as opportunity, but rooted in destruction. You felt that uneasy feeling in your stomach before stepping into situations that later broke your peace. That's not anxiety, that's discernment. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 6, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." Ode. That direction is not punishment, it's protection. You were never meant to walk without guidance. Disobedience is not just rebellion, it's disconnection. And when you disconnect from divine order, even blessings can feel heavy. Have you ever noticed how the wrong path can still feel comfortable at first? It's like walking through a forest where sunlight filters just enough to make you think it's safe, until the shadows close in. Disobedience feels like that, beautiful in the beginning, suffocating in the end. But the good news is, no matter how far you've wandered, the echo of mercy still travels through the trees, calling your name. God doesn't remind you of past mistakes to shame you. He reminds you so you won't repeat them. Every warning is a love letter written in advance. Every delay, every unanswered prayer, every closed door, it's His way of saying, "Not this one, my child." There's danger behind that beauty. One, sometimes He even uses pain to redirect you. Pain is not always punishment. Often it's the hand of heaven pulling you away from cliffs you couldn't see. The ache in your spirit is proof that He hasn't stopped caring. The same voice that said, "Go," before will now say, "Stop," when you drift too close to harm. The echo of disobedience is meant to bring you back to alignment, not to condemn you. But if you keep ignoring it, that echo turns into silence, and silence is the scariest sound heaven can make. Because when heaven stops speaking, it's often because we've stopped listening. Suppose now. Chosen one. Look around your life. Are there places where peace no longer lives? Are there habits that once felt harmless but now drain your spirit? Those are signs that heaven is calling you back to obedience. You are too anointed to live halfway surrendered. Remember, Obedience doesn't always look glamorous. It's like planting seeds in soil, dirty, unseen, and slow. Yet, over time, what you plant in surrender becomes fruit that sustains generations. Disobedience, on the other hand, is like plucking fruit too early. It looks ripe, but the taste betrays you. You've been hearing God's voice longer than you admit. You've just been trying to negotiate with it. But there's no peace in partial obedience. The echo won't fade until you finally say, "Yes, Lord, I hear you." End quote. And when you do, heaven responds instantly. The storms that felt endless begin to calm. The heaviness lifts. You feel your spirit breathe again. Because true peace is not found in knowing the future, it's found in following the voice that holds it. Before we move forward, let this message be like a mirror, not a megaphone. Don't just hear it, feel it. If this word has stirred something inside you, if you feel that familiar echo in your heart, then take a moment to show gratitude. Share this message so that another drifting soul might hear the same echo before it's too late. Like this, if it found you at the right time. And subscribe to stay within this flow of divine reminders, not for numbers, but for connection, for alignment, for accountability, because sometimes one shared word is enough to save someone from the edge. And maybe today, that someone is you. There is a moment when heaven stops repeating itself, not because God gives up, but because his silence becomes the lesson. You've been sensing that quiet lately, the space between prayers and answers, between conviction and confirmation. It feels like heaven is distant. But chosen one, listen carefully. Silence is not absence. It's the sound of God waiting for you to move on what he already said. You've prayed for new instructions while ignoring the last ones. You've asked for a sign while standing on the one he already gave. That's why the silence has stretched. God is not punishing you. He's preserving what's next until you prove faithful with what's now. He won't keep repeating what you refuse to obey, because repetition without response becomes rebellion. When heaven goes quiet, it's not a void, it's a mirror. In the stillness, you begin to see yourself clearly. The distractions fade, and what's left is truth. Your motives, your patterns, your hidden fears. God allows silence to surface what noise once buried. The still moments you call emptiness are actually invitations to maturity. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 24, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock." No, that's the key, hearing and doing. The silence that follows a command is heaven watching to see whether you build on the rock or on the sand. You've heard the words, but will you walk in them? You've received revelation, but will you apply it? The strength of your house depends not on how much you know, but on how much you obey. Think of a seed buried underground. For a time, it looks like nothing is happening. The soil is silent, the air is still, and all seems lifeless. But in that silence, transformation is taking place. Roots are forming, structure is developing, and what was hidden will soon break through the surface. That's what God is doing with you. You are in the soil of silence, not because you're forgotten, but because you're being formed. Heaven's quiet seasons are not punishment, they're process. The same God who spoke worlds into existence can communicate without words. When he stops speaking, he's teaching you to trust his heart without hearing his voice. Silence develops spiritual maturity. It refines your dependence. It tests whether your love for him is based on his presence or his performance. And yet, silence also warns, because if ignored long enough, silence becomes separation. God's grace will wait, but it will not beg. The Holy Spirit will whisper, but he will not wrestle. That's why you must act while the conviction is still warm. Mercy has a sound, and when it grows quiet, that means time is shifting. Right now, heaven is urging you to return not halfway, not for a day, but fully. Return to prayer, not out of duty, but out of desire. Return to purity, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Return to faith, not because everything makes sense, but because you trust the one who never changes. You've been asking, why don't I hear him anymore? But God asks, why did you stop responding when you did? His silence is waiting for your surrender. Once you obey what you already know, heaven's voice will flood your spirit again. Beloved, this is your moment to realign. Don't let the quiet make you cold. Let it make you curious. Let it drive you deeper into worship, into stillness, into listening. Because in the stillness, you will find him again. Sometimes the loudest miracle is not the parting of the sea, it's the peace in the middle of the waiting. The quiet is proof that you are still under divine construction. Heaven is working behind the curtain, and soon the stage of your destiny will be ready. But if you walk away too soon, you'll miss the unveiling. So today, while heaven is still near, while conviction still stirs your spirit, take a prophetic step of faith. Break the silence with a declaration that heaven can see. Comment 444 below if your heart is open and you're ready to listen again. Let that number be your response to God's call. A signal that says, I'm done running. I'm ready to hear again. Oh, this is not superstition. It's symbolism. It's your way of saying, God, I acknowledge you in this silence. I choose to respond. And when you do, peace will begin to rise like the morning light. Heaven is still speaking. Chosen one, just in a language called stillness. Listen closely. What feels like silence is actually your invitation back into the sound of surrender. The enemy rarely destroys chosen ones through sudden collapse. He does it through slow distraction. He whispers, you have time. You can start later. God understands. And before you realize it, days blur into months, months into years, and purpose quietly fades beneath the comfort of delay. This is the seduction of delay, the sweetest poison ever poured into the ears of the chosen. It begins softly, like a lullaby. You tell yourself, I'll pray tomorrow. I'll forgive them when I feel ready. I'll obey when things calm down. But tomorrow never comes. Readiness never arrives. And calmness never settles. The enemy doesn't have to turn you against God to win. He only has to keep you comfortable enough to never change. You see, distraction doesn't always look dark. Sometimes it looks productive. You stay busy, but never aligned. Active, but never advancing. You fill your days with motion, but miss the meaning. That's how the adversary works, not by chaos, but by comfort. Because he knows that a sleeping warrior is no threat, even if the armor still shines. Heaven is revealing the schemes that delay your destiny. The Spirit shows how small compromises, tiny, almost invisible, have slowly stolen your focus. You used to rise early to pray, but now you reach first for the screen. You used to wait on God for decisions, but now you poll opinions. You used to guard your heart, but now you call exposure growth. The seduction of delay hides in these small shifts, so subtle you barely notice when obedience becomes optional. The ancient words recorded in Romans, chapter 13, verse 11, still echo today. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. That verse is not history. It's a wake-up call. Heaven is sounding an alarm over your soul. Wake up before comfort cages you. You were not born for convenience. You were born for conquest. Every delay tolerated becomes ground surrendered. Every time you say, later, darkness tightens its grip a little more. Look closely at your life. How many divine ideas have you buried under the excuse of not ready? How many apologies have gone unsaid? How many steps of faith left undone? How many words of encouragement never spoken because you waited for the perfect moment? There is no perfect moment. Obedience is perfection enough. Delay, numb discernment. It tricks you into thinking that because nothing bad has happened, everything is fine. But spiritual erosion happens quietly, like a cliff that crumbles grain by grain. You lose edge before you lose ground. And then one day you wake up wondering how far you've drifted. But the mercy of God meets you even there, whispering, "Come back. There's still time." And 4. Heaven wants you to recognize the cost of postponing your purpose. Every delayed act of obedience delays someone else's blessing. Someone is waiting for the light you carry, but they remain in darkness because your lamp is still unlit. You are not responsible for saving the world, but you are responsible for shining in your part of it. God has been patient because He knows your capacity, but patience is not permission. Merci lingas. But it does not last forever. The longer you resist movement, the heavier the silence becomes. Not because God withdraws love, but because love refuses to compete with your distractions. This moment, right now, is a chance to break that cycle. The Spirit is peeling back the illusion of later. He's reminding you that destiny doesn't wait for convenience. It moves when obedience does. What you postpone out of fear will eventually become regret if you don't act. Chosen one. Delay is not rest. True rest restores. Delay decays. The two may feel similar, but one brings peace, while the other breeds passivity. God wants to renew your strength, not your excuses. The season you are in is not meant for endless waiting. It's meant for wise preparation, followed by decisive action. Ask yourself, what has God already told you to start? What passion keeps returning no matter how many times you push it aside? What relationship needs mending? What step of faith needs taking? What habit needs breaking? Those recurring nudges are not coincidence, they're unfinished assignments. You may feel unqualified, unprepared, uncertain. But heaven is not looking for perfection. Heaven is looking for movement. Even a trembling step is progress. Even a whispered yes shakes the darkness. The enemy only wins if you stay still. So rise quietly. Return to what you abandoned. Pick up the calling you left in the corner of fear. Heaven will meet you in motion. The wind of the Spirit only fills sails that are raised. The seduction of delay loses power the moment you decide that now is sacred. God redeems time when obedience begins. And though you cannot reclaim the past, you can sanctify the present by choosing to move. This is your awakening. Chosen one, you have slept long enough. The time is not tomorrow, it's today. The hour has already come. There is a boundary line in the spirit where mercy ends and justice begins. Most never see it. They simply feel when heaven's patience shifts. It's not anger, it's alignment. You have been carried by grace for so long that you may have mistaken delay for approval. But heaven never approves what it only endures. When God calls you back and you hesitate too long, you begin to step near the breaking point of mercy. Chosen one, you have been walking that fine line. You can sense it in your spirit, a weight that feels different from guilt, heavier than conviction. It's not condemnation, it's the trembling before correction. You are not being punished. You are being warned with love so fierce that heaven interrupts everything else to reach you. Think of the river that overflows its banks. For a time, the water moves freely, dancing in sunlight. But once it crosses the boundary, it begins to erode the very land that once held it safely. Mercy works like that river. When you move within its flow, it refreshes and renews you. But when you push beyond its banks, ignoring the Spirit's whispers, resisting divine order, it begins to carve deep scars in your peace, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, from the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because you have rejected knowledge. I also will reject you from being priest for me. I know, these are not words of rage, but of heartbreak. Heaven does not want destruction for the chosen. God's desire has always been restoration. Yet rejection of truth leaves no room for mercy to operate. When you close your ears to instruction, you close your heart to protection. The breaking point of mercy isn't when God stops loving you, it's when He honors your decision to walk without Him. That is the most terrifying freedom, to be left to your own desires. Because without His correction, your strength becomes your downfall, your wisdom, your confusion, your freedom, your chain. You've been feeling the tension between grace and consequence. Each time you sense conviction, you think, I'll change soon. But soon keeps slipping further away. You keep promising repentance for another day, as if tomorrow is guaranteed. But tomorrow is only mercy's gift. And even mercy grows quiet when ignored. God's silence is not absence, it's warning. When heaven stops interrupting you, it's often because you've convinced yourself that disobedience is normal. The Spirit still speaks, but the noise of compromise has grown too loud. That's when the breaking begins, not in sudden catastrophe, but in slow separation. You stop hearing, stop feeling, stop caring. That is the enemy's goal, to numb you until rebellion feels like peace. Chosen one, do not mistake numbness for freedom. The absence of conviction is not victory, it's danger. The moment you stop being stirred by God's word, you're drifting farther than you realize. But the fact that you're reading this, that your spirit still responds, means mercy still stands at your door. The breaking point is near, but it has not yet come. This is the turning hour. Heaven wants to restore what disobedience fractured. The Father is not looking to condemn, He's looking to reclaim. His love is relentless. It will chase you to the edge of rebellion, reach into the cracks of shame, and pull you out before destruction seals the gate. But he will not drag you, he invites you. Love never forces. It calls. There is still time to turn, still space for surrender. You have not gone too far. Even at the border of mercy's edge, redemption waits. God's hands remain open not to scold, but to rebuild. The same voice that warned you is the one that will heal you once you return. Think of a potter watching clay harden in his hands. If he waits too long, it becomes unshapeable. But if he acts while there is still moisture, the vessel can be molded again. That's what heaven is doing now, pressing gently on the soft parts of your heart before they harden beyond shape. This is your moment. The divine pause before consequence. Every heartbeat you feel right now is proof that mercy is still active. Don't let this season pass like all the others. The sound of warning is not meant to frighten but to focus you. You were never meant to break, you were meant to bend, to bow, to yield. There's a sacred beauty in surrendering just before the breaking point. It's where pride dies and purpose lives. It's where rebellion turns into revelation. And when you finally yield, you'll discover that the boundaries of mercy were never prison walls. They were walls of protection, keeping you safe until your spirit was ready to walk in maturity. Stay close to that realization. Let it humble you, soften you, and guide you back. Because the breaking point of mercy is not meant to destroy, it's meant to define. Everything that can be shaken is being shaken. Chosen one. The ground beneath your feet feels unstable, and what once felt secure now trembles. Relationships shift. Plans unravel. Certainties crumble. You are standing in the divine shaking, the moment when heaven removes what cannot stay, so that only truth remains. It feels like loss, but it's cleansing. It feels like chaos, but it's construction. You've prayed for God to elevate you, but before he lifts, he sifts. Every true ascension requires separation. The shaking you're feeling is not punishment. It's proof that heaven trusts you with transformation. The things being removed are not part of your foundation. They were merely scaffolds meant for one season. You might wonder why everything is falling apart at once. Why friendships fade, doors close, or finances tighten. But remember, God is not cruel. He's careful. He knows that if he lets you rise while still holding what's unstable, the fall would be greater. The shaking isn't destroying you, it's protecting you from collapse later. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 27. The words, once more, indicate the removing of what can be shaken, that is, created things, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. You see, this isn't random turbulence. It's refinement. God is shaking everything, not rooted in him fear, pride, false peace, counterfeit relationships, because what's not founded in truth cannot endure the weight of destiny. You asked for elevation, and heaven answered with purification. When everything moves around you, remember that stillness inside you is the Spirit's signature. The storm doesn't mean you're off course. It means you're crossing through transition. A tree that shakes hardest before fruit falls is the same tree that soon stands lighter and stronger. The shaking removes the excess so the branch can bear more. This is why you feel stripped. You're being pruned to increase your power. God removes not to diminish, but to multiply. He takes so you can hold better. Every tear, every unanswered prayer, every season of solitude It's all a part of heaven's choreography. The shaking also exposes your anchors. It shows what you've been leaning on besides God. Maybe it was people, status, control, or comfort. But when those things tremble, you learn that the only unshakable ground is faith. The shaking humbles your confidence in self so that you can trust the stability of the Spirit. Chosen one. Don't resist the shaking. Don't beg God to stop what's saving you. Instead, lean in. Let the waves cleanse the dust of old seasons. Let the tremors realign your heart. You're being built again from the inside out. And soon, when others fall apart, you'll stand unbent because your roots have gone deep into truth. Every storm you've endured is building something unbreakable within you. Every loss has taught you discernment. Every delay has strengthened your patience. You are learning endurance, not from ease, but from earthquake. And when the dust settles, what remains will be pure, steady, and radiant. But don't hide the process. Shaking seasons are not shameful. They are sacred. They are the places where prophets are born, warriors are forged, and witnesses are refined. You are not breaking down, you are breaking open. Right now, heaven watches your response. Will you worship in the quake? Will you trust even as familiar things collapse? Your reaction in this moment determines the strength of your next. If this message resonates with your spirit, if you know the shaking around you is not random but revelatory, then seal it with a declaration of faith. Comment, "I still stand," below. Let it be your prophetic statement to both heaven and hell that no matter what trembles, your faith remains unshaken. When you type those words, don't see it as a comment. See it as covenant. You're marking yourself as one who won't fold when others flee. You're declaring that your roots go deeper than disappointment, that your heart remains anchored even as the earth moves. Heaven hears every word you release in faith. That simple phrase becomes a roar in the spirit, announcing that you've learned how to endure shaking without losing shape. You've learned to bend without breaking, to surrender without slipping away. And when the shaking finally stills, you will see what survived the purified version of you, the unshakable vessel heaven intended from the beginning. The storm will pass, but your strength will remain, because when God shakes a chosen one, He doesn't do it to destroy them. He does it to reveal what cannot fall. You are that revelation. You are the steady flame in the wind. And after this, nothing will move you again. The silence after the shaking always reveals something truth. When the dust settles, you begin to see what was truly holding you together. For some, it was faith. For others, it was familiarity. And for many, it was the illusion of control. But when God shakes a life, illusion falls away like leaves in autumn, and only roots remain. You've seen what happens when people ignore God's call. You've watched how disobedience disguises itself as freedom, how pride wears the mask of confidence, how compromise walks in dressed as love. But sooner or later, every false thing collapses under the weight of truth. Heaven doesn't destroy what's real, it only removes what's fake. The consequence of ignoring the call isn't immediate, it's gradual, like a candle burning low. The flame doesn't vanish all at once, it flickers quietly until darkness wins. When you keep telling God, "Not now," you teach your heart to grow deaf to His whisper. What starts as hesitation becomes habit. What begins as delay becomes distance. You might think, "I'm still blessed," so God must be fine with where I am. But blessings don't always mean approval. Sometimes they're lifelines, grace extended, while heaven waits for you to turn back. God blesses even the wandering, hoping that kindness will lead to repentance. That's why mercy feels gentle, even when you don't deserve it. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 20. Love the Lord your God. Listen to his voice and hold fast to him, for the Lord is your life. That is the heartbeat of obedience. It's not about rules. It's about relationship. Listening to God is not about fear of punishment. It's about protecting connection. Every time you ignore his call, a thread in that bond weakens. But when you listen, when you move at his word, the bond strengthens until nothing can sever it. Imagine your life as a garden. Each act of obedience plants something that grows toward heaven, peace, purpose, power. Each act of resistance plants weeds, confusion, frustration, regret. The difference between a garden and a wasteland isn't how much rain falls, it's what seeds were sown. And God, the gardener of your soul, keeps tending the soil, pulling weeds, whispering, "Let me help you grow again." Ignoring the call of God is like silencing the compass while you're lost at sea. You might drift for a while under clear skies, but storms will come, and without direction, every wave becomes a threat. The same voice that feels inconvenient today is the voice that will save you tomorrow. Sometimes the consequences of ignoring him aren't external, they're internal. You start losing peace. You start second-guessing yourself. You start filling the quiet with noise because silence becomes unbearable. That's the soul's way of saying, "I miss his presence." The heart always knows when it's gone too long without home. But here's the beauty of grace. Even when you drift, heaven doesn't erase your map. The call still stands. The voice still waits. The invitation is still open. And the moment you turn back, no matter how far you've gone, the Father runs toward you, not away from you. If this message stirs something inside you, take it as a sign. You're not hearing this by coincidence. Heaven arranges reminders like this so that your heart won't harden in delay. And as you reflect on this word, consider helping it reach another soul who may be on the edge of their own silence. Like this message, if it resonates with your spirit, not for numbers, but as a declaration that you choose awareness over ignorance, share it with someone who might be quietly drifting. You never know which seed will become their turning point. And subscribe to stay connected, not to content, but to consistency. These messages are not entertainment, they're reminders. And sometimes, one reminder is enough to change a direction, save a destiny, or restore a weary faith. Think of it like lighting a lantern and placing it in a window during the night. You don't know who's wandering in the dark, but your light might be the one that leads them home. Every share, every act of connection, every time you help spread truth, you're partnering with heaven to reach hearts that are silently crying out. The consequence of ignoring the call is emptiness, but the reward of obedience is overflowing peace. God is not asking for perfection, He's asking for your yes. One moment of surrender can rewrite years of wandering. So, chosen one, hear this clearly. The time for hesitation is over. The voice calling you is not angry, it's loving. The correction is not cruelty, it's rescue. The consequence is not the end, it's the chance to begin again. The call still echoes through the quiet. Come back. Choose life. Hold fast to me. And when you do, heaven will not remind you of where you failed. It will celebrate that you finally answered. There is a pain that feels almost holy, the kind that comes not from punishment, but from purification. You've felt it. Chosen one. The ache that sits behind your smile. The invisible pressure in your chest that you can't explain. The heaviness that lingers even after you've prayed. This isn't ordinary pain. This is divine surgery. Heaven is operating on your heart, removing what you once thought you couldn't live without. When conviction feels like pain, it's because God is cutting away what infection would destroy later. You've been asking Him to heal you, and He is but healing. Rarely happens without discomfort. Just as a wound must be cleaned before it can close, your spirit must face truth before it can rest. You see, conviction is not condemnation. Condemnation tells you that you are too broken to be loved. Conviction tells you that you are too loved to stay broken. One pushes you down, the other lifts you higher. The difference between the two is not how they sound, but where they lead. The Spirit whispered through the writings of Paul in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 7, verse 10. Godly sorrow brings repentance that leads to salvation and leaves no regret. But worldly sorrow brings death. That verse is the compass through your pain. It reminds you that not every sorrow is the same. Worldly sorrow mourns being caught. Godly sorrow mourns being separated. One grieves the consequence, the other grieves the distance. God is allowing this season of conviction so that the distance between your heart and His can finally close. Pain, when purified by purpose, becomes the language of transformation. Every tear you've cried in repentance has been counted. None of it is wasted. Heaven keeps record not of your failures, but of your return. Each whispered apology, each broken "I'm trying" is precious incense rising before the throne. This pain is the evidence that God hasn't given up on you. If you can still feel conviction, it means your heart is still alive to His voice. The truly lost no longer ache, they're numb. But you, chosen one, you still feel, you still care. That's proof of your belonging. Conviction burns because fire purifies. The same flame that once frightened you is now forming you. It's burning away the old patterns, anger that masked fear, pride that hid insecurity, control that covered pain. And though it hurts, something beautiful is emerging: humility, empathy, and peace. These are the fruits of holy fire. Sometimes you'll mistake conviction for loss, because it takes things you once cherished. God may remove relationships that fed your weakness, habits that gave temporary peace, or environments that numbed your calling. But every removal is replacement in disguise. Heaven never subtracts without the intention to multiply what's pure. Imagine gold in a furnace. At first, it glows, beautiful and bright. But as the heat increases, imperfection surface. The refiner doesn't panic. He waits until every impurity rises, then skims it away. When he can see his reflection in the gold, he knows it's ready. That's what God is doing with you. When He sees His reflection in your reactions, your patience, your words, that's when He knows the refining has worked. Conviction also brings clarity. You begin to see what matters most, not status, not validation, but intimacy with God. You realize that peace is not found in what you have, but in who holds you. The things you once chased no longer thrill you. The conversations you once enjoyed now drain you. That's because your appetite is changing. Heaven is rewiring your desires. Let this comfort you. You are not being punished. You are being purified for purpose. Pain is the proof of progress. Just as muscles ache when they grow stronger, your spirit aches when it stretches into maturity. The ache is not your end, it's your awakening. Don't rush this process. You can't fast forward healing. Let the tears come, let the silence stay. Sit in the tension until you sense peace rising beneath the sorrow. That peace is the voice of the Spirit, whispering, "I'm still here. Emson, one day soon." You'll look back at this season and realize that the pain you thought would end, you actually rebuilt you. You'll thank God, not just for what He gave, but for what He took. Because without this divine surgery, you would have continued bleeding in silence, mistaking infection for strength. So, endure. Chosen one, let conviction complete its work. Let pain become your prayer. The fire will not consume you, it will crown you. And when it's over, you'll stand radiant, resilient, and ready to carry the peace you once only prayed for. Sometimes God doesn't lead you forward, He redirects you. It's not a detour, it's divine strategy. The doors that slammed in your face, the people who walked away, the sudden shifts that made no sense, all of them were heaven's way of saying, "Not here, not this way." You thought rejection meant failure, but in truth, it was redirection. The path of the chosen is never straight, because destiny rarely follows comfort. Every turn, every pause, every unexpected obstacle is a compass from heaven. You prayed for open doors, but God loved you enough to close the wrong ones. If He had answered every prayer you begged Him for, you would have settled beneath your calling. Chosen one, stop mourning the places God moved you from. Some seasons aren't meant to be revisited. They were classrooms, not homes. The pain you feel is not from loss, it's from growth. You're shedding a skin that can no longer hold the new anointing forming inside you. The prophet Elijah spoke, as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 17, verse 3. "Leave here, turn eastward and hide in the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan." End of 2. Those words weren't punishment to Elijah, they were protection. God was hiding him, not harming him. And in the same way, He has hidden you. You think you've been overlooked, but heaven has actually covered you. Hiddenness isn't rejection, it's incubation. God places His chosen in isolation before He releases them into influence. There's a holy reason behind your redirection. You are not late, you're being rerouted. Sometimes what feels like delay is God diverting you from paths that would have destroyed your peace. You prayed for increase, but increase requires integrity, and so God slowed your steps until your heart could carry the weight of where He's taking you. Think of a river diverted by the hand of the Creator. The current might roar in confusion at first, but eventually it finds its flow again clearer, stronger, deeper. That's you. Every twist you've taken, every pause that frustrated you, has been forming a new depth inside your spirit. You will soon understand why the path looked nothing like the promise. God's redirection always has rhythm. He never closes a door without opening direction. The silence you call confusion is often the sound of heaven rearranging your coordinates. You wanted clarity before movement. But sometimes faith requires movement before clarity. The GPS of grace doesn't show the full route. It simply says, "Turn now." That's the call today. You've been lingering at a crossroad, waiting for confirmation that has already come. The discomfort in your current place is the sign. The peace that left you was the signal. Heaven has already moved on, and you're being invited to follow. Do not fear the unknown. The same God who led Israel through the wilderness will lead you through uncertainty. The same Spirit that carried Jesus into the desert to prepare him for power is now guiding you into purpose. Redirection is never random. It's refinement in motion. Sometimes the people who left weren't supposed to walk the next mile with you. Sometimes the plan that failed was never meant to succeed because it would have kept you small. Every exit in your story is an entry for something divine. The closed doors aren't endings, they are exclamation points that say, "Enough. Move on." "Oh," the Spirit whispers, "if only you knew what I'm saving you from. You'd thank me for every no." And you will. Soon enough. Because when God finally reveals what he was preparing, you'll see that every delay was disguised mercy. Every detour was divine choreography. Beloved, redirection doesn't mean abandonment. It means heaven is steering you with precision. You are being led through what feels like confusion into a peace that cannot be shaken. God's path may curve, but it never contradicts his promise. So breathe again. Stop trying to figure out every reason. Some directions require faith before understanding. God is moving you from comfort to calling, from wandering to wonder, from brokenness to birthing. And right now, if this word resonates in your spirit, if you know this, redirection is speaking to your current season, respond as an act of agreement. Comment 555 below as a prophetic declaration that you trust the new direction. Let that number symbolize divine change, the holy pivot, where endings become beginnings. When you write it, see it as more than digits. It's your yes to God's rerouting. It's your surrender saying, "I release what was so, I can embrace what's next." Because heaven is turning your detour into destiny, your confusion into clarity, your pause into power. The map has changed, but the destination hasn't. You're still on course. You're still chosen. And this redirection, though painful, is the straightest path to your promise. Fire is a strange teacher. It destroys and refines at the same time. It consumes what cannot last, yet reveals what cannot be broken. And for every chosen one, there comes a season where God answers prayer, not with comfort, but with fire. You've entered that season, the refining, the purging, the cleansing flame that transforms everything it touches. It feels fierce because it's final. The fire doesn't negotiate. It reveals. It burns away illusions, exposes motives, and melts masks you didn't even know you were wearing. You prayed for God to use you, and he said yes, but before he uses a vessel, he purifies it. Before he releases glory, he removes mixture. The fire has purpose. It's not meant to destroy you, but to separate you from what dilutes your anointing. Every time you lose something in this season, friendships, habits, false peace, it's not loss, it's liberation. You're being pulled from the grip of what you outgrew. The flames that frighten you now are the same ones freeing you. We are reminded through the writings of Peter in his first letter. Chapter 1, verse 7. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. And there's a holiness to this heat. Heaven does not waste fire. It sends flames only where fruit must be protected. You are not being punished. You are being purified for promotion. What others call ruin is actually rebirth. When fire finishes its work, what remains is unshakable, untouchable, and undeniably divine. It hurts, doesn't it? Because fire touches what's attached. Every part of you that clings to comfort cries out when God starts cleansing. You feel it in your heart, in your emotions, in your relationships, an ache that says, something is changing. And indeed it is. The ashes of old versions of you are falling away, making room for the one God always intended. Fire is not your enemy, it's your escort into purity. Just as gold glows brighter after the furnace, so too will your spirit shine when this is done. What you are enduring is holy friction, the rubbing away of everything false until authenticity gleams through. When God allows fire, it means you've reached a threshold. You can't carry impurities into elevation. The higher He takes you, the less weight you can bear. Every burn is a blessing in disguise. Every loss, a layer of preparation. The flames may roar, but they obey His command. Not 1 degree of heat touches you without His permission. Look closely, and you'll see something miraculous. In the middle of the heat, there's companionship. You are not alone in the furnace. The same one who walked with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in Babylon's blaze now stands beside you. His presence doesn't always remove the fire, but it redefines it. What should have consumed you instead crowns you. The fire exposes what faith protects. When all else burns away, you'll realize that your peace wasn't attached to possessions or people. It was anchored in presence. That's the beauty of refinement. When everything external falls, the internal becomes unshakable. You may be asking, when will this end? But the right question is, what is this teaching me? Because every flame holds revelation. You're learning that strength isn't loud, that faith isn't fragile, and that surrender is the highest form of power. You're learning to distinguish the temporary from the eternal, the emotional from the spiritual. When you emerge, and you will, your language will change. You'll speak less from wounds and more from wisdom. You'll understand that compassion is born from what was once chaos. You'll no longer resent the fire, you'll thank it. Because the pain that once scorched, you will become the light that guides others through their own. The fire is holy because it cannot be faked. It exposes every hidden thing, both in you and around you. You'll start to see truth in faces, motives in words, intentions behind smiles. It may hurt, but it will also heal. You'll begin to discern with clarity that only fire can bring. And then, when the flames quiet, you'll stand differently. Not bitter, but better. Not fragile, but fortified. You'll walk with the calm of one who has seen the worst and survived. People will wonder how you still glow after everything that burned away. And you'll simply say, because I walked with fire, not alone. End of tree. Remember, chosen one, God never wastes pain. If He's allowed the fire, He plans to reveal gold, Don't fear the heat, embrace the purification. What you're losing in this season was never meant to define you. What remains after the burn is holy, pure, and ready for the next. The cleansing fire will not consume you, it will commission you. You're not being undone, you're being unveiled. Obedience doesn't always look glorious. Sometimes it looks like surrendering in silence, walking away from what you wanted, or saying yes to what you don't yet understand. It's not a shout, it's a whisper of the soul that says, even if I don't see the full picture, I trust the painter. And that, chosen one, is the heart of returning to obedience. This season is not about doing more, it's about aligning deeper. Heaven is not asking you for performance, it's asking for posture. True obedience is not in the noise of religion, but in the rhythm of relationship. It's not about following rules out of fear. It's about moving in sync with the heartbeat of God. You've been through fire, through silence, through shaking. You've been emptied so thoroughly that all that remains is surrender. And this is precisely where God does his greatest work. Because obedience is clearest when everything else has failed to satisfy. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 1, verse 19, "If you are willing and obedient, you will eat the good things of the land." And that verse is not a transaction, it's a transformation. Willingness opens the door, obedience walks through it. Many are willing when it's easy, but few stay obedient when it costs something. Yet every divine promise rests on that very hinge, the obedience that endures. Returning to obedience feels like coming home after a long journey. You recognize the peace even before you see the light. It's that deep exhale your soul takes when you finally stop running. The anxiety you once called motivation dissolves into stillness. You stop striving to prove your worth and start resting in the truth that you were loved all along. You'll notice how the world's pace no longer fits you. The rush feels foreign now. You crave quiet. You crave stillness. You crave presence. That's because obedience restores rhythm. It returns you to the original frequency of heaven, the one where your heart and God's move in harmony again. To obey is to trust that his no is as holy as his yes. It's to believe that closed doors protect as powerfully as open ones bless. It's learning that surrender doesn't mean losing control. It means handing control back to the only one who truly knows where you're going. Obedience is not bondage. It's belonging. It's the alignment of will and wisdom. It's you saying, I don't have to understand to follow. I only have to love enough to listen. When you return to obedience, you start hearing God more clearly. The static of confusion fades. Decisions become simpler. Not because life gets easier, but because you've stopped wrestling with every instruction. You begin to realize that peace is not the absence of struggle, it's the presence of agreement. Look at the way creation obeys without resistance. The sea stops where he tells it to. The sun rises on command. The stars take their positions nightly without delay. None of them argue, and yet all of them shine. When you obey, you rejoin that divine order. You shine, not by striving, but by simply standing where he placed you. The return to obedience may isolate you for a time. Obedience often means saying no when everyone else says yes. It means walking away from circles that celebrate compromise. It means listening to conviction, even when others call it caution. But don't be afraid of standing alone. Obedience always leads to encounter. You may feel unseen by the world, but you are being watched by heaven. There's beauty in quiet obedience. You won't always feel a rush of emotion or a visible reward. Sometimes it's just peace, the deep, steady kind that doesn't depend on circumstances. That peace is heaven's applause. It's the confirmation that you've aligned correctly. Chosen one. Obedience is the language of love. Every step you take in surrender says, I trust you more than myself. And every act of trust rewrites your destiny. The blessings that obedience births aren't always immediate, but they are eternal. They outlive your seasons, outlast your fears, and outshine your former pain. One day, you'll look back and see how every yes carried you into strength. Every wait taught you wisdom, and every no guarded your purpose. You'll realize that obedience wasn't about restriction, it was about revelation. You didn't lose anything, you gained alignment. So, stay steady. Even when the path seems narrow, the road of obedience may be lonely, but it leads to life. It carries you to places where peace grows like fruit and purpose feels like breath. You are not walking backward, you are walking back into divine order. And when heaven looks upon you now, it sees not the rebel or the wanderer, but the son, the daughter, the chosen finally returned to the rhythm of obedience. There is a sound rising in the spirit, an alarm from heaven, calling the remnant to wake. You can feel it. Chosen one. It's that stirring that won't let you sleep through complacency anymore. It's that restlessness that tells you something is shifting in the unseen. The prophetic alarm is not a sound for everyone. It's for those whose spirits have been waiting, watching, and wondering if they still matter in God's plan. You do. You've always mattered. But this is not a season to stay silent. Heaven is recruiting the awakened, those who will carry light through the fog of fear and confusion. The world is trembling with noise, opinions, shouts, distraction. But within it, God's frequency calls to you, distinct and deep. Rise, speak, move. End of team. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 1, I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts. I will look to see what he will say to me. That's what this moment is, a call to take your post, to stand where God places you and listen for instruction. Every chosen one has a station, a place of purpose. For some, it's a pulpit. For others, it's a workplace, a classroom, a family, a platform. Wherever you are, that's your watchtower. That's where you shine. The prophetic alarm is not meant to frighten, but to focus. When God sounds the alarm, He's not warning of doom, He's awakening destiny. It's His way of saying, wake up, my warrior. Your moment has come. The world doesn't need louder noise, it needs clearer light. And that light burns brightest in those who've walked through darkness and refused to be extinguished. You are one of them. Your scars have become your sermons. The very pain you thought disqualified you is what qualifies you now. You speak with authority, not because you avoided the fire, but because you walked through it and learned how to carry flame without being consumed. This is not the time to shrink back into safety. The alarm is a sacred sound, calling the hidden ones out of shadows. You may not feel ready, but God doesn't call the ready, He calls the willing. He equips those who answer, and heaven is waiting for your response, not perfection. Think of yourself as a lantern in a storm. You don't chase the wind, You protect your flame, your obedience, your worship, your truth. That's your light. The more the storm rages, the brighter you must burn. Because somewhere, someone is looking for your glow to find their way home. The alarm also carries responsibility. Once you've heard it, you can't unhear it. You are accountable to what you know. This isn't pressure, it's privilege. You are part of heaven's plan to remind the world that mercy still moves, that grace still speaks, and that love still wins. If this message resonates with your soul, pause and reflect on why. Maybe the Spirit is confirming that you're part of this awakening, that your voice matters more than you thought. And if so, don't keep the sound to yourself. Like this message as your silent Amen. Your agreement that you've heard heaven's frequency. Share it as your echo. Let the same awakening reach those still asleep in their doubt. Subscribe to stay aligned with future words that carry the same breath of purpose, not for numbers, but for nurture. Every connection builds a chorus, and when enough awakened voices unite, the world hears heaven clearly again. And before you scroll away, leave a reflection in the comments below. It doesn't have to be long, just your heart, in a sentence. What part of this word spoke to you? What alarm have you been hearing in your own spirit? When you share it, you might unknowingly confirm someone else's calling. Sometimes one line of truth in the comments section becomes the confirmation another chosen one has been praying for. Think of this as a ripple in a still pond. One small act of engagement sends waves farther than you can see. The kingdom grows through moments like this, simple, sincere, sacred. Heaven is sounding the alarm. And you, chosen one, are not just hearing it, you are it. Your life, your endurance, your light. It's the trumpet that tells darkness its time is almost over. So stand at your post. Keep your flames steady. The world may not understand the fire within you, but heaven recognizes the sound it makes. You are not late. You are right on time. The alarm has sounded, and you have answered. There is something sacred about the moment after the storm, the quiet that follows, the breath that returns, the light that breaks through clouds heavy with memory. That's where you stand now. Chosen one. After all the shaking, the silence, the refining, and the surrender, heaven begins to whisper again. Now rise. Not a crown of gold or recognition, but of endurance worn by those who refused to bow when everything else did. You may not realize it yet, but each moment you chose faith over fear was a thread woven into that crown. Every tear became a jewel. Every prayer uttered in exhaustion became a piece of silver shaped by divine hands. As the apostle reminds us in the letter of James, chapter 1, verse 12, blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life the Lord has promised. That is the promise, the crown of life. It's not given to those who never fell, but to those who kept getting up. You've fallen, yes, but you didn't stay down. You've questioned, doubted, even wept in frustration, but still, you remained. That's what makes you chosen. Look at your journey. Every battle carved depth into your faith. Every heartbreak stretched your capacity to love. Every silence built your patience. You were being crowned piece by piece, long before you saw it. The pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The weight you carried was the shaping of a warrior's shoulders. Heaven never hands crowns to the untested. A crown without endurance is too heavy to hold. That's why the trials came not to disqualify you, but to strengthen your neck for the weight of what's coming. You were never being broken. You were being built to carry glory. You'll notice how your perception shifts in this stage. You no longer envy others' blessings. You honor their battles. You see differently now because pain has purified your vision. You recognize God's fingerprints in delays, His mercy in redirection, His love in loss. The clarity that comes after the storm is sharper than any earthly insight. It's the wisdom of the crowned. Your life is about to reflect the quiet confidence of one who has survived the wilderness. You won't need to prove who you are anymore. Your peace will speak for you. People will look and wonder how you stand so calmly after everything. And you'll smile not with pride, but with gratitude, because you'll know that the calm isn't yours, it's heaven's, resting on you like a mantle. There is a beauty in that kind of stillness. It's not emptiness, it's fulfillment. The noise within you has finally bowed to the voice above you. That's what the crown represents: mastery, not of the world, but of the self. It's not power over people, but peace within purpose. The crown also carries responsibility. To wear it is to live as a reflection of the King. You'll be called to carry hope where others carry fear, to bring compassion where others bring chaos. The anointing resting on you now isn't for admiration, it's for assignment. You are being trusted with influence, not to be celebrated, but to serve. And yet, this service will not feel like labor, it will feel like breathing. Because everything you've endured has aligned you with your design. You are no longer striving to be used by God. You are simply living in rhythm with Him. That's when destiny becomes natural. The crown awaits, but it's not something you'll receive one distant day. It's something being placed upon you now. Every day, you choose peace over panic, faith over fear, humility over haste. The light grows stronger on your head. You may not see it, but heaven sees it glowing. Angels recognize the reflection of divine authority. The universe itself adjusts around the obedient. This crown isn't about status, it's about stability. It marks the completion of one season and the beginning of another. You've gone from the valley of shadows to the mountain of vision. You've gone from asking, "Why me?" to declaring, "Send me." That's the transformation the fire was always meant to produce. So, walk forward with your head lifted, not in arrogance, but in awareness. You are royalty, refined by reality. You've earned every ray of this light. Wear it quietly, walk humbly, and let the glory of your endurance tell the story heaven wrote in hidden places. The crown doesn't just await you, it recognizes you. It was shaped for your scars, fitted for your faith, and placed upon you by hands that never make mistakes. There is a final stillness before endings, a sacred hush when heaven holds its breath and watches to see what you will do with everything you've learned. You've come through the valley, through silence, through fire and refinement. You've obeyed when it hurt, trusted when it made no sense, and stood when others fell. And now, chosen one, heaven whispers once more, stop before it's too late. This is not the warning of fear, but the whisper of wisdom. It is the reminder that even the chosen can drift if they stop listening. You are standing at the edge of fulfillment. Yet the same edge can become a fall if pride steps forward before humility. Every story of greatness ends or begins with one final choice: to keep walking with God, or to walk alone. You've seen what happens when hearts harden after victory. When those who once bowed begin to boast, the same fire that refines can consume if reverence is lost. That is why heaven speaks now, not to condemn, but to keep you close. This word is the closing circle of your calling, the seal that keeps your soul steady in the seasons to come, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 5. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. MZ. That verse is the truth that sustains every chosen one, no matter how high you rise, no matter how far you go. You are never self-sustaining. You live by connection. The same God who lifted you can hold you steady only if you remain rooted. To detach is to wither. To remain is to flourish. You've spent so much of your journey learning how to fight. Now you must learn how to stay. Stability is the final lesson of the anointed. Many can rise by zeal, but few can remain by wisdom. You have endured storms, but can you stand in sunlight without forgetting who carried you through the rain? Heaven is not warning of disaster. It is inviting discipline. God doesn't only call you to conquer, He calls you to continue. The crown you wear is not an ornament. It is a weight of responsibility. To carry it well, you must keep your head bowed under it. In this final moment of reflection, see your life like a garden again. The seeds have been planted, watered with tears, and tested by fire. Now the fruit begins to form, but fruit is fragile when pride is near. Guard what is growing. Protect your peace. Don't let recognition replace reverence. Don't mistake momentum for maturity. There will still be voices that tempt you to move faster, to prove more, to build bigger. But heaven measures greatness not by numbers, but by nearness. The closer you stay to His voice, the more powerful your presence becomes. The world doesn't need another performer. It needs carriers of presence. You are called to be that. This is the meaning of stop before it's too late. Stop running after things that make you visible but not valuable. Stop confusing opportunity with obedience. Stop letting exhaustion disguise itself as productivity. The true strength of the chosen is not in motion, but in mastery of stillness. God's desire is not to keep you from success, but to keep success from keeping you. He will bless you in ways that test whether your heart can handle abundance. He will entrust you with favor that demands humility. And as long as you remain dependent, the flow of heaven will never stop. So now, at the end of this journey, remember the sound of the first call. The moment when heaven interrupted your chaos and whispered, "Stop." It was never just a warning, it was an invitation. An invitation to pause long enough to listen, to yield long enough to transform, to obey long enough to become whole. You have stopped running. You have returned home. And as you stand at this threshold, know this: obedience will keep what anointing begins. The mercy that found you at the start still surrounds you at the end. So rest. Chosen one. Breathe in the quiet triumph of surrender. The lesson has been learned. The journey has been walked. And the voice that said, "Stop before it's too late," now whispers softly, "You listened. You're safe." Oh, and now, below the chosen one, the journey closes, but your story doesn't. What began as a whisper became awakening. What once was warning has turned into wisdom. You have walked through valleys, stood in fire, learned silence, and discovered strength. You have not just read words, you have remembered who you are. Heaven watches in quiet satisfaction. The same voice that stopped you at the beginning now releases you forward, refined, restored, and realigned. You are not the same soul that started this path. You are lighter, clearer, closer to the heartbeat of God. The storm didn't steal you, it sculpted you. If these words have stirred something deep within, let that stirring become motion, like this message as a personal seal, saying, I hear you, Lord, I'm ready to live differently. Share it so another wandering heart might find the same stillness, the same awakening that found you. Each share is like lighting a candle in another window, guiding another soul home. And if you feel this space has become part of your spiritual rhythm, subscribe and stay connected, not out of habit, but out of hunger for truth, for alignment, for community that carries light instead of noise. This isn't just a page, it's a place of remembrance, a living altar where heaven still speaks. Before you leave, take a moment to breathe, reflect, and comment below what you're taking with you from this journey. Maybe it's one word, one revelation, one promise that changed your sight. Your reflection might be the exact confirmation someone else needs. You've reached the end. But endings in the kingdom are always beginnings. Walk forward, crowned with peace, clothed with purpose, and carrying fire that will not fade. You are seen, you are chosen, and now you are ready.